Any volunteers?
I would love to pray us in because I would love to pray for world peace.
Beautiful.
So let us just take that deep breath, the one that takes us deep into the interiors of the sacred temple of the heart. The one that brings us into the inner chambers. Of stillness and 0 point. So breathing in and breathing out, and breathing in and breathing out. We set the intention that our prayers will go on wings to support peace in the hearts and minds of all those that are open and receptive. From that 0 point that connects us through the quantum wormhole of interconnectedness. We allow those frequencies to move across the grids and networks, heart to heart to heart to heart to heart. We allow the harmonic resonance of peace. Peace, be still. Peace that knows there is only one presence and one power, and in that power, there is no fear. So be still, my heart, be still, my mind, and send that harmonic resonance of peace throughout that field of quantum interconnectedness. And let it activate, activate, activate all willing hearts in this moment. And I always anchor my prayers with the Aramaic that says, Matul de lehe melkuta, wahaila watashputa, la alam, amin, amen. And that says, it is sealed in trust of truth. It is sealed in trust of truth, and so it is. Amen.
Oh, it is. Thank you.
It was beautiful. Thank you very much.
Very beautiful.
Yeah. So
Thank
Charlie,
you.
your mic is a little low. Can you check your audio?
I'll get closer. Maybe
Okay.
that will help. Is that helping?
It's a little
Yes.
better. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I can improve my audio or not.
Okay. So did you want to lead with the questions, Charlie? I sent a few in case you had needed some backup.
Yeah. Well, I think her prayer is appropriate for what's happening today. And I just watched Fareed Zakaria interviews a lot of the top people in the world regarding the situation. And their feeling is there's going to be save face and retaliation and negotiation. So anyway, Toni, yes, just give us an idea of your background, where you're raised, and how you propelled into what you do with life.
Okay, Charlie. Well, I was born in Pennsylvania, in a little town near Kensington, and my mother was a paranoid schizophrenic. So at a very young age, she started going in and out of hospitals, and I was the oldest child, so I became the kind of the head of the family of the younger children. And it created in me a very an angry soul. I was an angry soul for many, many years, and feeling like she had come to do this to me. And so when I was 28, I moved to Missouri. My husband was transferred, and I found at that time I found unity. And of course, then my heart opened and I began the forgiveness process. And I realized that everything I'd gone through was really about developing me into the person that I was. And at that time I was a nurse. And then in Missouri, so many doors opened for me. I ended up getting a bachelor's in nursing. I ended up with a master's in nursing. I started on a PhD. I did a PhD. And it was during that time when I had an experience with the divine feminine, actually in Sedona, that with that experience, I heard a voice that said, "You are a high priestess in the order of Melchizedek." It just came out of nowhere. I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know what it means. And I just sat with that as I was awakening my own process of the divine feminine. And then fast forward a few years, a friend of mine, I'm in California in Tustin, and a friend of mine takes me and she says, "You've got to meet this man. He belongs to something called the Madonna Ministry." And so she took me over to Charlie's house. And the moment Charlie saw me, Charlie said, "You're a high priestess." They're like, "Whoa, there's something going on here." So Charlie takes me to the backyard, that beautiful, with all his sacred little temples and everything he has set up. And Charlie ordains me as a high priestess. And but during this time I'm writing books. I write a book that embracing the feminine nature of the divine, luminous darkness, and several different books that were related to the divine feminine. So that started my journey then into the Madonna Ministry, for which I was pretty active. I became a bishop and for several years, but then I had the calling to really, I never left Unity, but they invited me. Well, I became vice president of Unity at Unity, and I had education and so I had to take a step back from Madonna Ministry so I could really focus on education and retreats and hospitality. And then in 2005, I went to Peru with a group of women, and we stayed in these like Swiss Family Robinson. It was a high over the jungle bungalows, and we would go into the night and we'd work with a shaman. And he only worked at night. We were right next to the Amazon River, and we were there for 2 weeks, and it was totally life changing, totally. And I came back. I mean, I'm at the epitome, the pinnacle of everything I ever wanted, to be on the executive team at Unity, to be vice president. And I hear the voice say, "You're done." And I go, "What?" 3 times in meditation, "You're done." And it was like, I got it, that it was like, okay, I was to be complete, that all of that was a lot of head stuff. And I wasn't there anymore. And so, of course, in my own head stuff wisdom, I say to Spirit, "Okay, I get it. I'm done. So I will finish out this year." Can anybody ever tell Spirit what to do? This is what we're going to do, Spirit. And
we're going to make a deal.
and I'm going to finish out the year when this year graduates, because we're shifting the curriculum. Then I'll retire and I'll see what you have next. And Spirit went, "No, that's not going to work." 2 weeks later, I'm at a retreat, and Daniel Namod is playing, and I go to turn, and the slightest turn in consciousness can change your life. And as I go to turn, I slip and I become a projectile, and I hit my head on the edge of a wooden seat arm. I knock myself out, and when I come to, I have no short-term memory.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
goodness.
So here's somebody who's always one of the smartest people in the room, blah, blah, blah. And I have no short-term memory, and I have to, I take a leave of absence. And during that leave of absence, the first 2 weeks, I just wail, how could you do this to me? How could, I blah, 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 blah. And then when I'm in meditation, this is about 2 weeks into this, and I hear the word so clear. Yes, your empowerment system, your energetic source. Yes. Say yes to this. Say yes to everything that's happening to you. And I just started saying, yes, I don't know what this is about. And that's where a few days later, I find the quote. Now, this is 2005. And I find the quote by Nikola Tesla. Nobody's talking about this quote. If you want to know how the universe works, think in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency. And I decide if I'm going to recreate my neural pathways, which is what you have to do when you have a mild traumatic brain injury, you have to recreate your neural pathways. I was going to put it together by taking a deep dive into Charles Fillmore's teachings and that quote. And that quote began to work me. And it took 18 months to come out of the fog of the head injury. But I came out January 10th of 2007. But during that time, I was working on two major projects, a Fillmore project, and then the project around energy. And what I started to see is the universe only works with energy, and it's a yes universe. We create the no. We create the no. Universe, the energy is here to serve us. Everything is energy. If it's true that energy is the divine substance that underlies all manifestation, then energy is here to serve us. This is how we create. This is how we attract infinite possibilities. And energy doesn't lie and energy doesn't die. It just transforms. And energy is neutral until I activate it. And as I activate it, as I put it into motion, I have a choice as to the vibrational frequency. Will I go with fear, competition, greed, or will I really take that fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional energies of the I am presence, the Christ presence, and will I begin to live those energies? And so that was the journey. That was the next step of the journey. And I started writing books about it. I started, Unity came back and asked me to head up their peace skills department, which was, I created a whole ministry consultant system. We took out, we moved from peace skills to, I found it as energy management. When there's creative tension, there is because energy is being mismanaged in some way. There's an energy dynamic that is not working and wants to be rearranged. And so we started doing all of our peace skills, our energy management from that perspective. And I wrote several different levels of curriculum and stayed in that job until about 2022. But during that time, I was also writing books. And then in 2017, I started an advanced consciousness class that I teach on Tuesdays. It's a mastery class. It's oriented towards energy. And so that's my story, Charlie, and kind of brings me up to date. And, I want to say in 2020, I wrote a book. It's like everything I've been learning about energy. I wrote a book called Soul Mastery. And Soul Mastery, in the book, it called me to write it. And Soul Mastery has had to do with how we take energy, how we use energy. And then I was given the behaviors and actions that how energy shows up in third dimension in behaviors, in fourth dimension in behaviors, and as we grow into fifth dimension, how we can change. So
Toni, your enthusiasm inspires. I'm going to change the direction for a moment. You've had a partner during this process, right?
yes.
How did your partner respond to dramatic changes going on within you?
Well, it's interesting, Charlie, because in I was ordained by Unity in 87. So in 90, we went through that whole thing. I'm not sure I want to be a minister's husband. And so we really danced with that for a little while. And he actually went to see his kids to think about it. And I stayed home and I went in a 3-day meditation and I just surrendered everything. I surrendered. I knew there's only one presence. I wanted to be, that's where I wanted to live. So I gave everything away. I have a beautiful house like you. I gave my house away. I gave the bank accounts away. And I said, God, if you want me to live in a shack by the railroad tracks, that's what I will do. And I cried and I sobbed. And as I'm crying and sobbing, the phone rings and it's my husband. And he's crying and sobbing. And he goes, I don't know what just happened, but something just spoke to me and said, I was supposed to come home.
Love you. I'm sorry. Apologize for that.
And he said, I'm supposed to come home and I'm supposed to support you in anything that is yours as part of a ministry. So Charlie, since 1992, that's what he did. He supported me. He just took me places, went with me places, made sure I got places. And so he's been quite the soulmate for partnership of this ministry. And then in 2007, he became ill. And I've been really caretaking him now for the last 18 years too.
Well, thank you for, everybody's in relationships, so they certainly impact their lives. I guess,
Maybe we could put people on mute.
Hold on a minute.
If we go on mute, then yeah,
that's a good idea. Very good idea. Okay, so it's interesting. When you talk about the use of energy and kind of manipulating in a way and the ability to create almost anything, and you go from that mental way of looking at the world and you reverse it and go into complete surrender. How do you reconcile those two?
well, I don't see that we manipulate energy. Energy is here. I don't think we manipulate it. I think that from a surrendered place of being, we become coherent. The mind moves into the heart. The longest journey we ever take is the one from the head to the heart. And when we start living from that heart, we start to create a coherent field of energy that becomes an electromagnetic field of attraction, the electromagnetic field of attraction to which things start to come to us. But because we're in such a coherent state, we get attracted to us. I don't ask for anything, nothing. My only prayer is whatever is next, and I am open.
That's wonderful, because so much in the metaphysical movement is to pray for what you want. How do you reconcile that?
Well, I think that's a beginning step. I think that's where people come in and get attracted to it. But the true prayer of the heart is the prayer of the surrendered heart that really starts to work with the idea that as I release and let go, as I really know that there's only one presence and one power, and that presence is always working for me, I don't need to be out there asking for anything, because what I found in my life is as I be the frequency of harmonic resonance, of peace, of love, of joy, that I'm activating a vibration that goes before me to draw to me that which is next. So let's say I decide I'm going to sell my house and buy another house. I don't have to go out and do picture boards about what that house is going to look like. I might think about what that means, but that house will be drawn to me.
From a deeper level, would inside yourself.
Yes, because you be the frequency. You be the frequency of pure surrender. And in that surrender, you're allowing spirit to bring to you and through you. Even on the way to come down to the temple today, I decided a road was closed. So I decided to take this other road. And I knew that there was a turn I had to make, but I wasn't quite sure where it was. But I mean, like about 5 feet from the turn, I got it. Spirit said to me, here, here. And it didn't look familiar, but I know that Spirit said, here. I turned up that road. That was it. That was the road. And it becomes that subtle, but that sharp.
All right. Can we go back to your awakening moment, Sedona?
Yes.
Are you able to identify your guide?
Am I able to
Are you
identify?
able to identify your guide, the one that spoke to you through you?
Oh, I believe it was Melchizedek.
Okay.
The ordination was ordination as a high priestess in the order of Melchizedek. So the only thing I can think of, and when I say guide, I like to think of it as a frequency. It's the frequency of Melchizedek that somewhere in that moment, actually, I was in Boynton Canyon, the same canyon where Walt Disney wrote Fantasia. That's where his download of Fantasia came.
Yeah. I recently took my grandkids to Sedona. Two of them. I want to introduce them to the experience. And then we hired a Jeep driver to take us to some remote areas where a lot of creativity is happening, for sure. You know, I'm sure most people in our organization probably realize that Jesus was a priest in the order of Melchizedek, right?
Yes.
And so the priesthood there is in contrast to being a priest of the world. You're a priest of the spirit. That's what you're telling us. That's what you're demonstrating. I used to, early in my writings, I was talking about the melding of the mind and the heart. That's what you're demonstrating to us as you're living that process of moving into your heart. But you don't surrender, at least I don't surrender my intellect and my reasoning ability. I feel that's a compliment to the melding of the heart. And I totally get, that life is giving up fear and expressing from a point of mystical point of love that goes beyond so much ordinary understanding. Almost until you've had a direct experience of it, you don't kind of realize that. I'm sure Samara relates a lot to what you're saying. Samara, would you like to ask some questions? You can unmute yourself. You got to unmute yourself, Samara. There.
Okay, yes, Toni. I completely relate to your journey, and surrender is like now my middle name. I mean, but I think what I wonder, you're also, of course, a teacher of so many different things, and I certainly hope to be I am a teacher in many ways too. So when someone is learning all of this information, it feels to me like there's almost a membrane of forgetfulness where they don't believe that they yet have the power or the worthiness to emanate their frequency and receive that which would come. That's like they're afraid to do that because of their own, self-doubt or whatever. How do you deal with that with the people that you're teaching?
Well, I now consider myself a facilitator of energy. I don't even use the word teacher anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it may sound like semantics, but I really just facilitate energy in a space that I don't try to change it. I just support people in facilitating a shift in conscious awareness, you know. So and you have to do it gradually. You just introduce the concepts and you let them sit with them. And what I find is the clearer I am, Samara, about what I know to be true, the clearer, the more happens in the space. Let me say that. The more happens in the space. Because so I wrote a book called The Power of Be. And in that book, I talk about the void of forgetfulness. And how we go into that void of forgetfulness, and we forget that we have all these powers. We forget, but that everything starts with a choice point moment. That every moment is a choice point moment, and they're moments to remember. And we get to choose: will I remember who I am, or will I choose to stay in the void? And that's a void with a little v, not the void of, so it's that whole idea of, see, because the basics are, you have to start with self-observation. Self-observation is the prelude to Christ consciousness. Who am I? What do I believe? How am I living those beliefs? And I have to answer that with authenticity. And so when you're teaching people, for me, facilitating energy, it's a gradual process. We start with that self-observation. Then we go into conscious choices. And that's all about clearing the mind of the monkey mind that keeps us in that void of forgetfulness. And once they can begin to see that they do have the ability to clear the mind, and something that I said earlier that I want to clarify with Charlie is, when I talk about bringing the intellect into the heart, what I see it is we begin to think with the heart and feel with the mind. That, because to me, the greatest gift I believe that the mother has given me when the divine feminine awakened me was she gave me the gift of understanding compassion at a new level. And that compassion is that I care, but I don't carry. I care, but I don't carry. And the thing I see with people is they open up and become empaths, and then they become so empathic that it knocks them out. They become, sometimes I've seen them just become useless because they carry so much of other people's energies. So all of these are part of that first level teachings and facilitation of energy to support people to move past those, so that we can start to get into the energy dynamics that are the next level energy dynamics. I'm starting a class soon that I'm going to be talking about the consciousness body and the energy body, and how they must both be developed while we're working. And each one has different practices.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. That's very, very helpful. One other sort of a segue, if you will. Like all of us, I keep getting the next step, right? The next information, especially with everything that's going on right now. And so for me, recently, Archangel Metatron came through and said that part of what those of us that have been on this path, not only this lifetime, but a long time, we can now work with what he was calling karmic knots, Knots, that have laid across the energy patterns, especially here on Earth, that are both generational, situational, people who, were raised in a certain religion or whatever. And so that there's an awakening in some of us that there's a particular karmic knot, because, maybe hopefully we've cleared enough of our own personal stuff that we could focus on something else. And that these karmic knots, in a way, are preventing some of the beautiful, light-filled, compassionate, loving, et cetera, prayers that all of us put out and actions that we all put out from having a bandwidth that they can land to then make the changes. So all of us, wish for peace or pray for peace or act for peace. And so I was just curious if maybe you had a different word for that or something, but I know I've been working on the karmic knots that have to do with this old paradigm of victim, perpetrator, and rescuer. And of course, that's everywhere. So some of the people that I've been teaching, facilitating, I like your word better, have been working with that as well. Does that resonate with any of the work that you're doing?
Oh, yes, because I do believe there's karmic knots. In fact, I got the message last year that I am a conduit for source energy to dissolve, you could say, karmic debt. But I like your karmic knots, to help people, support people in dissolving karmic knots, because karmic knots are what keep us like all tied up. And you're right. If you think that as a grid, a network of energy, there's a grid, and things, in order for the to flow through the grid, there can't be a karmic knot. The karmic knot will stop the energy flow. And that's the same thing within us. We must release our past karmic knots. In fact, this Tuesday, I'm teaching a class called The Energy Dynamics of Perception, because our enculturated beliefs are our karmic knots that we must release. Because here's the thing, we filter. Let me back up. One of the things I didn't say, I was a nurse, and then I became a nurse practitioner. And so I always blend the scientific. It's not enough for me to have it from a metaphysical perspective. I want to know the science behind it, because that's how my brain works. So I always look towards the science of it. So as a nurse practitioner, that comes into play for me. So when we talk about the idea of karmic knots and having to release those and perceptions, 95%, we filter out 95% of everything. We couldn't take in everything coming at us. There's way too much. So we filter out. So the 5% that we do allow in, we filter that through our past perceptions.
Right.
And if we don't clear those karmic knots, those past perceptions for which we make meaning of life, you're wrong, I'm right, they're out of line. Those past perceptions will be created from those enculturated karmic knots that aren't even ours. They were given to us by our parents or society or our nation or our education or our religion.
Okay, that invites more questions. Thank you. Questions that come up for me, and when I studied holodynamics and practiced that, when we we're doing like regression therapy, we come across a knot. If the person has to be ready and willing to get through that knot, or else they stay stuck in it. That was my experience. But you're bringing up a good question. I think now we need to ask the continuity of life. Where does the process of reincarnation maybe fit into your belief system?
Well, I want to go back to just the idea of the person has to be ready. Excuse me, 1 second. Could you close that door?
We've got several people coming through.
It's open. They can just open it. Thank you. Thank you. So the person has to be ready. If they're not ready, I can work with them, and it's going to be just futile. So I really want to be clear, the person has to be ready. It's not about us doing anything to them. I mean, we can provide them with tools, but they have to be ready. And then reincarnation. Of course, for me, Unity is a big believer in reincarnation, and that it plays a part. It plays a part. Sorry, people are going to be walking through this room, and so I'm just inviting them to come through. Could you close that door, please? Thank you. So that whole idea of reincarnation is the idea that the past lives are important, but they shouldn't, like, oh my God, I was Cleopatra in a past life, or I got killed in a past life because of this. We shouldn't allow that past life. It just brings information. I can be standing somewhere and I could have a bleed through. I mean, this happens to me. I have a bleed through of a past life. And I realize that when that happens, that it is just informing me that there's something, it's a knot that wants to be untangled.
I get it. And I had that experience you're talking about where but I had to go back in time, or wherever I live in time, to a moment in time where I had been a monk tied to a burning stake, and the stake was sticking up my butt. And until I processed that and reconciled and forgave the perpetrator, I would continually have, before that, I would have migraine headaches like once a year for no reason, apparent reason at all. And once I processed this out, got past that knot, I had never had another migraine headache. So that's why I brought the subject up of reincarnation.
Yes, because I do think you can heal things like I was working with a man who was having severe shoulder pains, and suddenly I saw an axe in his back. And I said, okay, this is coming through me. If it works for you, fine. But I'm seeing an axe in your back. Would you like to remove the axe? And once we removed the axe, he never had a shoulder pain again.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
I love that. Yeah.
So that becomes those types of things. However, I don't feel people should dwell on it. Let's take it out, remove it, and don't wear it like a badge of honor.
Right. Exactly. But use it as awareness of how life works.
Exactly. Something Samara said just tickled me because she talked about Metatron, and Metatron as an archangel is the universally known as the archangel of energy. So he's the archangel of energy, universal energy. And so that's why Metatron's cube, which is actually a circle a circle, and within the circle are 13 circles that represent the feminine, and then lines that represent the masculine, and every sacred geometric pattern lives within that Metatron's cube. The other thing that we have to really know is, so I went to a lecture 2 weeks ago. I went to a spirit fair, and there was a woman who was a young woman who was going to speak on Metatron's cube. And so I thought, I'm going to go and just see what she has to say. I was really open. Oh my God, Charlie. The girl didn't know anything about Metatron's cube. She didn't even have a picture of it. 4 people had never seen it. She didn't have a picture of it. And she was talking about it like it was a cube. But when it is, so much more than that. So I think we also have to be aware of those who are young and coming up and really haven't done the deeper work. And anyways, for me, that just was such an eye-opening thing of, this is interesting. And that's going on. Everybody has to learn, but I don't know why I brought that up. It just was such an interesting experience for me.
It's a great example of people that aren't fully informed and yet put themselves as a teacher and mislead other people. But like you said earlier, there's law of attraction.
Exactly. And so I know there was a reason that I was attracted in there. And I think it was just to see that so that I could support people some way, somehow. It hasn't come across my path yet, but I just know there's a reason that I was in that room seeing her.
Yeah. And I was looking at it from a different perspective about the people that she attracted.
Yeah.
And would probably be misled. And that was appropriate for them, right?
For that moment.
Yeah. When I've been reconciling within my own heart mind is the creation, power of creation. and so everything is created from one source and one power and one life, and however it's used, I guess, say is appropriate.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part.
Yeah, however the use of this creative power within each individual or throughout creation, however it's used, is appropriate. It's like whatever this is being created is absolutely appropriate. It can't be any other way.
It is what it is, or it wouldn't be happening. What's
Right.
happening is happening for that person in that moment, you know. And so we do really have to understand that it's happening because we needed to experience it. And so that does become, and I know that it is what it is, or it wouldn't be happening. This sometimes feels like such a cliche, but I have to tell you, I stop lots of times and I say that to myself because it's so important to get out of victim. Samara was talking about victim earlier, the victim triangle. To get out of victim, you really have to learn to become an accountable creator. So if this is happening, somehow I've had a part in it. Doesn't mean I actually created it, but I have a part in it. It's happening, or it wouldn't be happening. It's either for me to learn something from, or it wouldn't be happening. It would just be. It would just be a. It would be happening to somebody else. So it's really important that we really get that that's not just a cliche. It is an experience. They're words to live by, because what I've really learned is that words are not just descriptive. Words are creative.
Good point.
I wanted
Yeah.
to just throw in the word just discernment. You know, I think that part of having a teacher who perhaps should go back and learn a few things, or having a teacher who's manipulative, or all of this, you know, because that happens, I think, for just about everybody as you start your journey. To me, what comes up is, let's learn about discernment. Let's see, okay, so like you were saying, Toni, what is this here? What am I here to learn? How did I choose to be here, et cetera, et cetera? And so I think this aspect of opening is about trusting ourselves by this process of discernment to see, okay, what is this for me? Or is this just for me to learn to say goodbye to?
Yes,
I just want to throw that in.
I love the idea of spiritual discernment, and I feel that's something that it takes time. It takes time to develop spiritual discernment, because that rises out of intuition. And you know, intuition is a gift that actually, in some people, maybe they're born really with that gift alive, but with others of us, it's a gift and a talent that awakens as we awaken. And with intuition comes that whole idea of spiritual discernment. And that becomes.
I agree. Discernment is very important. From a broader prospect, though, as we're discussing creation, the energy, and how everything is. If you take it beyond our kind of personal experience, like the creation of clouds, the creation of eruptions, the creation of our collision of planets, the overall creation that we have witnessed is it's observable, and I think I'm learning to surrender to creation in a sense. That this is creation, this is the way things are, and I'll do my part. If I'm intuitively guided or feel guided, I will maybe change directions. But anyway, that's it. Looking at broader paintbrush of subject exploration.
Well, I feel like we live and move and have our being through and in a creative process, and we get to determine how that creative process will work. And that goes back to energy, vibration, and frequency. Will we use the creative process from a third dimensional mindset of survival oriented fear, greed, competition? You're wrong, I'm right. Or will we start to use the creative process from a higher level of awareness that says, I am the presence of the living. For me, I always say, I am the presence of the living Christ frequency, the living Christ energy. And as I am that, I get to make choices at a different level. I get to make choices that are for the highest and best of all, and not just Toni.
Exactly like Jesus did at the Last Supper. His choice was, yes, get on with your betrayal. Get on with whatever you're destined to do.
Exactly. And betrayal is part of the process. Jesus couldn't have gone to the cross without the betrayal.
Exactly.
But the cross was what got him through to the ascension.
So Judas had to play a very key role in that.
Exactly. And so every time somebody betrays you, and I've had betrayals in my life, every time they've betrayed me, I have to look at, so what if this was an agreed upon energy dynamic so that I could learn something? And what is it that I'm to learn? This isn't about them. That's not making them right in what they did, but it's like taking them out of the equation and saying, what is this for me?
Yeah, what's the meaning of it? And what's the meaning of what it appears to be? Yeah.
And it's all appearance.
Yeah.
It's all appearance, because if it changes, it can't be truth. Because truth is eternal. It doesn't change.
In the ministry, we had a scientist that was a physicist, and he believed that there's no such thing as an absolute. How would you address that?
Well, that's a great question. Is there an absolute? I have to say, I do believe that there's only one presence, one power, one mind. I do believe that as an absolute. I think everything else beyond that is something that's changeable. And we have so taken that one presence, that one power, that one mind, and we've created our own ideas out of it and what it means, and we've made meaning from it. And what I realize now, Charlie, is my meaning is so meaningless.
I love it. I love it. For years I tried to tell Bobby, love is an absolute. She said, how can you explain that? I couldn't. I did my best to try to explain what it meant for me. And that, yes, within love, all possibilities exist.
And I like to use, even now for me, because love for me has so much baggage, there's so much conditioned around what lives. I like to use the word for harmonic resonance.
There.
That when something's in harmonic resonance, there's a pure balance. And in harmonic resonance, this side's not asking this side to do anything, to be anything. They must come together as equals to be in that balance point for harmonic resonance to occur.
I think you'd call that unity.
And so I've been using that word harmonic resonance because I also feel with the fact that everything is energy, then regardless of what's happening, whether it's words, whether it's actions, whether it's thoughts, whether it's feelings, whether it's manifestation, if everything is energy, then underlying it is some type of a frequency. And for me, that frequency is what's important because I can have a lot of beautiful words, but if the frequency of the motive behind my words, if I'm here, instead of just being a pure conduit, if I'm here trying to sell you on my way, on my ideas, then I don't have a pure motive. And that changes the frequency from which I'm coming.
Beautifully spoken. This is marvelous. You've been a wonderful facilitator for us today. I love it. Your journey is beautiful as you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you to Madonna Ministry. Thank you for everything that it gave to me over the years. It always has a sacred place in my heart because the divine feminine, it just lives in my heart. She's been my teacher. You know, to me, my understanding is when you have this high initiation, the baptism by spirit, that is the baptism by the Holy Mother. And then the Holy Mother takes you into the wilderness, a dark night of the soul, so that she lovingly does that so that she can show you who you truly are. And when you come out of that, then you know who you are and you're ready to be in service to the world.
So you could say that the dark night of the soul is like womb, like the darkness of the womb.
Yes,
It's a rebirth.
exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Thank you,
sharing.
everybody.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Toni.
Bye.
It's beautiful. Appreciate your time.
Mhm.